We get the news this week that perhaps Jordon Hudson was suspended from the UNC offices. Perhaps she wasn't. North Carolina says she's welcome, but let's make this clear. She's not an employee. There's posturing. There's not embarrassing somebody. There is a line being drawn, but trying to do so in a diplomatic way by the administration over at UNC. And with that as the backdrop, I thought the most interesting story or line item that came out of the Belichick weekly saga was that members of the Belichick family are worried that Jordon Hudson is ruining a legacy that it took him decades to build. And that is a aha turning point. Remember when I talked about last week, Julian Edelman said in his podcast that, hey, PR people stop interviews all the time, and that's no big deal, that she tried to halt the questioning of how they met with the CBS Sunday interview. And he tried to kind of gloss it up, no big deal. And then in the comment section, Nikki Glazer, who, by the way, clearly is in that social circle because she hosted that roast of Tom Brady, and Belichick is there, and Kraft is there, and Edelman is there, and all those people are there. She kind of defends her the same way. Oh, no big deal. This is what PR people do. In that comment section under that post, one of Belichick's son's wives, so Belichick's daughter-in-law, commented, pretty critical of Jordon Hudson. And that was the first sense that not all is well in the family for what Jordon is doing. Now, this was not one of his sons. This was not blood. But it would be odd if one of the wives of his sons said something that his sons disagreed with, right? More than likely, this is what they're talking about. And instead of a guy on Bill Belichick's staff, on Daddy's staff saying something, it's his wife that's echoing what he feels. And that was the first sense that what Jordon Hudson is doing and what Bill is doing is not satisfying and is not cool with the family. Okay, so now it starts to bring a different picture into balance here. And the report this week that she's undoing something that he built his legacy on is very notable. Because then that means there is real concern, not just on the outside of what it looks like, but on the inside of what they know that it is. And I think that right there is a real, okay. So what it looks like on the outside is what is really going on. Because you could never know. But if the family is worried about this, it means, look, Jordon Hudson is a bit of a crackpot. And that Bill's being manipulated. And that Bill doesn't realize it. And he's got family trying to step in to stop this. And I thought that this week when North Carolina said she is not an employee, but she is obviously welcome within our walls, it was a very delicate dance. We don't want to disrespect Bill's girlfriend, but we do want it known she doesn't work for us. Did we mention that? We might have to send her emails. She might have CC on all of his emails. She might be at the spring game. She might be this, that. But by the way, everybody, she doesn't work for us. She doesn't work for us. Did we mention this? She doesn't work for us. So UNC draws a line, and the family's worried. The family is worried. This is such an interesting dynamic moving forward because something's got to give. And either somebody gets to Bill, his family, or North Carolina and says, hey, Bill, you got to rein this thing in. And she understands, and he draws some hard lines, and she falls in line, which would be a hit to her ego, being told what you're doing is not productive. And it would take him also drawing lines where he has not drawn, or she continues to do what she does, he continues to do what he does, and it keeps pushing outside of the line of normalcy, and it becomes saga and soap opera, etc. And that's a really bad track for him, because then it does sully so much of what he spent years building as a reputation. And I thought it was, you want a canary in the coal mine? You want a symbol of where this thing is? I began this little segment talking about how Julian Edelman went on his podcast and said, Jordon Hudson stepping in and saying, we're not answering that question, it's no big deal. Well, he completely backtracked. He went on a radio interview this week and said, no, it's become a distraction and you have to practice what you preach. And he always said no distractions, and now that's becoming a distraction. So where do you think that talking point comes from? I think at the start, Edelman thought he was being a good teammate, being a good patriot by closing ranks, defending everybody inside those ranks. That's what the Patriots always have done. Don't let it get to the outside. Don't say anything through the media. Close ranks. We're all in this together. And now suddenly it's become a distraction. How do you think that happens? Well, the talking points within those ranks change, right? He's probably hearing from Bill's family, hey, we're not cool with this. Nobody should be cool with this. The fact is, we need to all make sure we're trying to get him out of this, which is a crazy thing. But those types of pivots in narratives and talking points when it comes to the Patriots don't happen by happenstance. They do not happen by, we think something different today. Those end up becoming bullet points that are sent out or talked about within those walls by the organization, by Robert Kraft, by how we're supposed to handle things. And we know that Kraft and Bill don't meet eye to eye. So there is certainly a change in how they're going to approach it. They're going to either not say anything at all, or this is bad for Bill. Either way, it's becoming more and more apparent. What we thought was crazy about it is exactly right. That's what is crazy about it.